this computer. Okay, so the recording has started. So basically, before this Zoom started, I did like a whole brain dump in my planner that I'm hopefully going to use this month. I have this like planner subscription. Every month it comes, and every month I like avoid using it. It's a problem I have, but I'm trying to get better. So basically, recently I've just been kind of struggling working my own business. And I don't mean struggling in that I'm like completely not doing it, because I've been doing Scentsy for a couple years, and I can like almost not work my business as much and still get by. And there is a big difference between when I'm actually like actively working my business. So in September, I kind of like worked the first half of the month, and then I started homeschooling, and I'm not trying to make excuses, but like things have just been really different. So it kind of got pushed to the back burner a little bit, and I think it's really easy to do. So literally the quote that's been going through my head for days is, I can hear Chastity Robinson saying it over and over, because she always says it, that it's okay to not be okay, but it's not okay to stay there. So I think for me, I kind of got my little smiley face from my pumpkin patch we went to today. Anyways, for me, it's, I get in these situations, and then I can't figure out how to get out of them, because like my anxiety and stress just takes over, and I kind of go into avoiding versus trying to figure out how I can fix things. So, also I'm on, as you know, probably a lot of the, once you hit lead and above, you get put on different pages with Scentsy, like the leadership page under Chastity, the leadership page under Chloe. There's just a lot of different leadership pages, and people will be shouting each other out, which is great. But it's really hard to not compare yourself to other people. And I know Nicole is shaking her head because she feels the same way, but it's really hard to not compare yourself and your journey to other people when you're on all these pages and they're being shouted out, or they are shouting themselves out for just like hitting these crazy numbers and like doing things. I've been working for a director for 2 years, and there's people doing it in 2 or 3 months. So it's hard to not compare, but at the same time, you have to understand that if you're not hitting the same numbers, or if it's taking you longer, there's a reason for that. I also, like, when I get in these situations where I'm really stressed about my business and I'm avoiding my business, I'll start to avoid other things. I realize this. But like, I'll avoid my laundry. Like, literally, you can see my laundry over there. It's been literally backed up for months. I've had this pile of laundry in my living room. Like, the pile has moved rooms. It will go from my living room to my daughter's room because she doesn't sleep in there. And then like, if something happens in my daughter's room, I'll move it to a different, like, literally, it's just like weight on my shoulders. So at some point I feel like, oh my God, I can't work my business because I have this pile of laundry. How am I supposed to sit down and do my Scentsy business when I have this huge pile of laundry literally right beside me? And then it just like, I psych myself out, and then I don't want to do the laundry, so I start doing something else because I hate doing laundry. So that's one thought I've been having. I'm just going to go through, like, first of all, I'm going to go through my brain dump, and then I'm going to go through the things that I'm trying to do to fix the situation, okay? So that's literally the first thing, because between my house being a mess and my laundry just piling up and piling up and piling up, I almost feel guilty working my business when I have other things I should be doing, but I don't want to do those things, so I don't do anything. Doesn't make any sense, but that's the thoughts I've been having. I'm now homeschooling my son. I'm a nurse, so virtual schooling was not going to work for us. So I decided to homeschool, which is actually going really well. It's one of the things in my life that's going well. So I've kind of like, if it's something I'm enjoying at the moment, I want to pour myself into that thing. So I'm spending my time where I should be dividing my time into working my business and homeschool my son or whatever. Instead, I'm just pouring myself into that. And that doesn't make any sense either, because I know at the end of the day, in order to stay home more to homeschool him, I need to work my business so I can make more money so I don't have to work as much or as many extra hours as a nurse. Then I already talked about this, but how are people promoting to director in 2 to 3 months when it took me 2 years? First of all, comparison is the thief of joy. We all have heard that, and it's really hard to understand. And the more you look into those things, the more it will weigh on your brain. So promotions and stuff like that, you need to congratulate people. You need to understand what they're doing, but you also need to understand that there is different situations. Everybody's at a different point of their life. You don't know how supportive their family is. Some people have a super supportive family. Some people have a family that won't buy from them at all, that will literally burn candles and take pictures and send them to you. So you don't, what you see on Facebook is not the full story. And then another one, people are having like $6,000 plus PRV months. So then it makes me think, like, why is my $2,000 PRV important if they're having $6,000 PRV? But that's not the case. My $2,000 PRV is important to me because it's going to give me that 30% or 30% commission versus 25% commission. That's important to me. It doesn't matter what they do. That's not going towards my paycheck. What they do does not interfere at all with what I'm doing. So it doesn't make any sense for me to belittle myself based on somebody else's PRV. I should be shooting for 2,000 because you get that extra 5%. Okay. If I brought my camera over and showed y'all my Scentsy closet I have right now, like, y'all would probably, it would stress you out, because it's literally like I try to organize it and then it just keeps overfilling. And then I get another box and I'm like, how am I supposed to open this box when I have a closet full of things that are not organized and it's all Scentsy? So why would I open another Scentsy box? Like, that stresses me out. So I have actually been slowly going through and throwing a lot of things away. I know people always say, like, bulk sample, bulk print, bulk everything. But if you don't have use for all of those bulk items, it is so much easier to have digital bulk things versus actual paper printed out bulk things. Like, yes, bulk some things, but like, another thing I do is when I get stressed and I don't know what to do in my business, I will literally just like start making samples. I don't know what I'm gonna do with these samples, but I feel like I'm doing something if I am making samples. So I'll start making samples, and then next thing you know, you have all these samples, and I've spent 6 hours on it, but I haven't actually done the important things for my business. So IPAs, Chloe Cox and Chastity, they always talk about IPAs, and that's really important. And I think just bringing simplicity into your business is super important too. I've been trying to do that, so I've literally been going and throwing away the bulk items that I have, because when I need them, they're on my computer and I can print them out. It's okay. Now, samples, yes, you need to have some on hand to have out, like to be able to send out and add to your orders and stuff, but don't feel like you have to have like this massive supply of bulk things, because at the end of the day, it's going to stress you out if you're anything like me and you cannot keep anything organized. When I need it, I can go on my computer and find it and print it. Okay. And then I do this thing where I'm like, oh my gosh, I can't send out my mail outs because I didn't get my mail of the month or my scent of the month yet. Or I need to like print all these extravagant flyers, and like, that's not the situation. Whenever you have time to do that stuff, you need to just sit down and do it versus trying to perfect it, because perfection is going to hold you back. And it's really just a way to avoid things. And I know that, but I still do it. Let's see. Okay, this is another thing. So we all know how important consistency is, and that's where I'm going to go with this training. Is I have literally listened to Trent Shetland's Find Your Superpowers training or podcast 3 times in the last 2 days, okay? I listened to it to work and on the way home from work yesterday. But that's kind of passive listening. And that's another important thing is when you're listening to podcasts and you think you're doing all this self-development, you need to make sure that you're actually absorbing the information, because I will listen to Jessie Lee all day long, but if I'm not actually like listening and taking notes and really absorbing the information, then what am I really gaining out of it? I think I'm doing something because I'm sitting there and I have it in my head, like in my earphones going on, but I'm doing a million other things and I'm not really listening. So when you're self-developing, you have to give yourself that time to completely be absorbed in that situation. Okay, so with consistency, I get into this thing where I'm like, well, I didn't share anything on my stories yesterday, so how can I share something on my stories today? And then next thing you know, it's been 6 days, 7 days, and you're like, oh my gosh, I haven't shared anything in a week. No, people think I've like fell off the face of the earth, but really what you have to understand is nobody is watching your life and it being as critical as you are being of yourself. So even if you haven't shared anything in a week, people aren't going to forget that you are doing Scentsy, right? So they still know you as a Scentsy person. They're not being as critical as you're being to yourself. It's never too late to continue and start over. Easton wants a snack. He just ate dinner. Actually, his second dinner. Yeah, go. Because it's 9 o'clock. He's had his second dinner. Okay. So people are not like judging your life the way that you're judging your own life. They're not counting the number of days that it's been since you shared something with Scentsy, right? They see your page. They see that you're sharing your kids and other things. They're not keeping track of how long it has been. But somehow we psych ourselves out and convince ourselves that, oh my gosh, I didn't share anything in a week. Like, I can't just start sharing now. And that's not the case. Okay, this is another big one. How can I focus on my team when my business is not where it should be? I think, and a lot of Chastity and Chloe both always talk about you should focus on your business first and then your team second. But I think it's important that you're able to share different things with your team and be present in your business and your team. You cannot just completely act like your team doesn't exist to get your business in check. It has to like go hand in hand, but you have to keep it simple to be able to do both. The trash can's right here. Okay. I leave messages unopened and then it's been 2 weeks and I haven't replied to the person and I feel like the person is going to be like mad at me or upset with me, and that's not usually the case. They probably aren't thinking about it again since the day that they sent the message. So it's never too late to just reply. Go. Y'all can share. It's never too late to reply to these messages, okay? Okay, this is another big one. And a lot of these are big ones. And I hope that I'm not like freaking y'all out with this, because if you've never been through these kind of things, I promise you, if it's just getting started in your business, you're going to go through them. I've been in this business for 2 years, a little over 2 years, and it's like the peaks and troughs, right? Your business is always going to be like you're on a high or you're on a low. That's how it is in this business, and you have to be able to adjust to that and understand that that's okay, but you have to know how to fix it. So how am I supposed to follow up with my customers when I didn't follow through with what I said I was going to do? I know. Go get a snack. So I know I can't be the only one that's told somebody they're going to send a sample and then you get like something happens and it's not your fault. It's not like you intentionally didn't send that person a sample because you didn't like them or whatever. That's not the case. But it's okay. And they probably didn't remember. If they do remember, a simple, I'm so sorry, I didn't send you that sample. There was a lot going on, whatever. Don't make all these excuses. It doesn't have to be elaborate. They don't have to know your life. Just tell them you're sorry you didn't get it out to them and send them one now. It's going to be okay. They're going to forgive you. They're not waking up thinking about Scentsy the way you are. So they're not literally checking their mail every day waiting for your sample. You might have those people every once in a while that are messaging you, talking like every day said, oh, did you send it out yet? But more than likely, a lot of customers, they have other things going on in their life. And they're not that worried about it. So even if your stuff comes a month late, it's still going to make their day the same way that it would have if it came 3 days later after you sent the sample. So never feel like because you didn't do something you were supposed to do that you should just like avoid that person completely, because they will still be your customer. If they're not, then it's their loss probably. Maybe they found a new consultant, but more than likely they probably didn't. So they still need Scentsy in their life, and you have to be the one that steps forward and realizes that you made a mistake and move on from that, okay? Let's see. How do I train other people when I'm struggling? Y'all, I literally typed out what I was going to say to cancel the Zoom tonight because I didn't know what I needed to talk about. And I realized as I was typing that out that if I'm feeling this way, then there's probably other people that are feeling this way. And I know a lot of y'all are new, and you may be like in that momentum of the beginning when you're like, you want to go, 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 and everybody's supporting you. But I promise you at some point you're going to get to this point in your business and you're going to feel like giving up and like nothing is going right, or that it's just too much for you. And you have to realize that it's important to know how to get out of that situation. I'm going to save this one for last because this one is really like, even just talking about this and saying it out loud makes me think like, why was I doing this? Why was I in this situation? But it's what it was. So, one thing you can do for your customers so that you don't put yourself in these situations is always to under promise and over deliver. I think Justin Cox is one that usually says that. So don't tell your customers, oh yeah, it should be shipping out in a couple of days, when you know that Scentsy's backed up. And then they're texting you like, hey, where's my order? And you want to avoid it because you don't want that confrontation. I think a lot of people like to avoid confrontation. I think that's just like a natural human feeling. So just don't make confrontation for yourself that's not needed. Explain to them upfront what to expect. And then if it comes sooner, that's great. Or like for me, I do send my customers, when they place an order, I do send them Happy Mail, but I'm not going to say, I have to stop telling my customers, oh yeah, I'll get your Happy Mail out tomorrow, knowing that I work a 12-hour shift tomorrow, right? Like, that's stressing myself out. That's unneeded stress on myself that I am causing. They're placing an order for Scentsy. They're not expecting me or you to send them something as a gift. That's an added bonus. So don't stress yourself out saying, oh, I'll send it out tomorrow, when you don't know if that's something you're able to do, right? Okay. So like I said, I listened to that Trent Shelton podcast. If y'all haven't listened to it, it's an older podcast. I think it's from September. Have you listened to it, Philippa? Yeah. So I think it was from September of last year. I don't know. It's an older podcast, but I knew I needed something to get myself out of this funk, and I remembered this podcast getting me out of a situation like this before in the past. So I pulled it up on my way to work yesterday. I listened to it on my way to work, on my way home from work, and then I listened again tonight before this podcast, or before this Zoom. And it's Trent Shelton. It's the Straight Up podcast, and it's called Find Your Superpowers. And if you've never listened to it, I would highly suggest you do it. So I'm just gonna read some of my notes I took during that. So the first one is this mantra that he tells himself basically before every event he has, that kind of thing. But a lot of it really spoke to me. So what I wrote down are just the important parts that spoke to myself. So when you listen, you may have different notes. But so it says, he says, I completely understand that where I'm at today and where I go tomorrow or don't go tomorrow is solely based upon my action or the lack thereof. It's so much easier to not take action than it is to take action, right? That's what a lot of us do. So if you take action, it's going to change what will happen to you. Then he says, I am the only person that can truly hold myself back. I will never catch my dreams by dodging the hard work. That's another thing I think that myself and a lot of people are guilty of, is dodging hard work. It's something that we don't want to do. It's hard, so we just don't do it. I will never let results hinder my purpose. That's another important thing, because if you are, say you're doing all the things that you're being trained to do, you're having all the conversations, but you're not recruiting, it's okay. The result that you're getting right now cannot change what you're doing, because what you're doing has been proven to work. It is what people that are successful in this business do. So don't think that because you're not getting the results right away that you should stop, right? So don't let the results hinder your purpose. The only way to lead is to lead through my feet and not through my tongue. So do what you say you're going to do. Quitting is not an option. After every struggle rests a reward. The pain is a mile marker to my destination of success. Small steps daily. So small steps. That doesn't mean every single day you need to do all of the things. We have been talking a lot about doing 2 to 3 things a day, having 2 to 3 goals, and focus on IPAs. Don't spend time doing all like the frilly things that don't need to be done for your business. Just focus on the IPAs, right? So PRV, recruiting, and coaching. And then I know what consistency means, so I haven't been consistent up until this point. How can I move on? I know how important consistency is, and like I said earlier, if you haven't been consistent, it's okay, but you need to start now. So my goal for October, and another thing, I have been listening to Jennifer Anderson on YouTube a lot, and she does weekly Zooms with her team, right? So I think it's every Tuesday, she does a Zoom with her team. So in my mind, I'm thinking, well, maybe that's something I should do. And then this morning, Chloe gets on the leadership page, and she's saying that it may not be the best option to do weekly Zooms because you're kind of stretching yourself too thin. I homeschool my son. I have 2 different jobs. I do Sensi. Like, I'm always busy. So it would be hard to commit to weekly Zooms, but I do want to commit to monthly Zooms every month. And I am going to try really hard I am going to schedule them and stick to the dates we have, because I don't know if you've noticed this or not, but I'm really good at being last minute. So I get an idea and I want to do it like right away, but that's hard for other people. And I know that. So I'm going to actually tonight, probably, I will set the dates for the monthly Zooms, and that way people know in advance and can arrange to be on them. A lot of people, whenever they have been consistent for a long time and their results aren't showing up, they just want to quit. And that goes back to what I said earlier about if you're not seeing the reward right away, then it's like you just quit, and that's not okay. Keep being consistent, and eventually you're going to see the success. You don't get to superstar director by being inconsistent, and you don't get to Disney by being inconsistent. So you need to show up for your business every day, even on Sundays, even on Saturdays. Step back and punt. Yes. Yeah. So every day you need to be showing up for your business. Now, that doesn't mean like you should work all day Saturday, you should work all day Sunday, but you have time every day to do something for your business, right? And then last is application creates transformation. and you have to listen to apply. So that goes back to what I was talking about earlier about when you're actually listening to these self-development things, you need to be listening intently. You need to be taking notes and actually absorbing the information versus just listening and like doing other things, right? Let's see. Y'all have any questions? This is a lot, I know. And have y'all experienced, I know a lot of y'all are new. Have you experienced any of these feelings yet? Because if you haven't, like I said, you probably will. And you're going to come to a point where you feel like giving up. And like I said, I've been in this business for a little bit over 2 years. And even when I'm saying these things, like last month, I worked really hard the first 2 weeks. And then the second 2 weeks, I was so focused on my son that I kind of let my business fizzle a little bit. But that doesn't mean I had 0 PRV, right? Like I still had over 1,000 PRV. Being inconsistent, I still had that. So I have always, you're harder on yourself than other people see you. So my version of inconsistency is I didn't have a $2,000 month. And I don't want to not have a $2,000 month because I want to earn that extra bonus, right? So when I get close to the end of the month and I see that, then it makes me want to avoid it because the thought of Scentsy, like even doing small things, like even opening a box, the thought of doing Scentsy like opens up the floodgates because then I'm like, oh my God, how am I going to get my 2,000 this month? And then I'm like, you know what? I'll worry about it tomorrow. So we have to stop doing that. And I think a really good way to stop that is to listen to podcasts. Jessie Lee and Trent Shelton are like my go-to. On YouTube, you can go to Jennifer Anderson or Rachel Spear, Ray Ray, Chloe, Chastity. Yes, Alicia, I'm so glad you did because, I mean, she will light a fire in you. And those are small things that really can kind of get your head in the game and make you realize what you need to do. Yep, she has so much energy. And I know when I don't, like, okay, every Wednesday, every single Wednesday, when I drive to work, I always listen to Trent Shelton. But when I'm starting to, like, wander, Wednesday comes and I'm driving to work and I'm listening to music and I'm like, that's weird. Like, it's part of my routine. So why am I changing things now? Knowing that it's not going to help my life, right? So that's one big change I've made is usually, almost always when I'm in my car, I listen to some kind of podcast because I don't have a lot of time other than that. So my time in my car is my time to listen to the podcast. And another thing here, so Trent Shelton talks about, like, you're very replaceable. And what actually happens when you quit, right? So if I were to quit, first of all, Chastity will get some bomb ass frontline, right? It'll help her, to be honest. I mean, the person that's going to be affected the most if you quit or if I quit is yourself. Like, I'm going to be missing out on those paychecks if I quit. I'm going to be missing out on this team and, like, the self-development and the support and all of the things if I quit. Like, yeah, I mean, some people will probably miss me, but at the end of the day, it will affect you more than anyone, right? Versus at your 9-to-5 job, if you quit, nothing's going to happen. They're going to replace you. You think you're not replaceable, but at the end of the day, you are at your 9-to-5 job or your day job or whatever. Like, I'm a nurse, and a couple weeks ago, one thing that really kind of like kicked my ass in gear was a couple weeks ago, I had like a really rough weekend in the NICU. Really rough. And Saturday night, I accidentally clocked out twice. So it clocked me back in. And a rough time, I mean, if you think about a rough time as a nurse in the NICU working with sick babies, you can probably infer what happens. And my manager called me into the office, and I'm thinking she's going to like talk about the situation that happened, but instead she's talking about the fact that I clocked in on accident when I should have been clocking out. Like, that blew my mind. Because at the end of the day, they're not really that worried about your livelihood. They're not worried about what happens at home. They're worried about you coming in doing your job exactly like it should be done, and that's it. So it's important to know that you're replaceable. Also, you need to know who's depending on you. For me, my kids, that's like my number one. My kids are depending on me. And they're going to depend on me. And I have really struggled with student loan debt, and I do not want my kids to struggle like I have, because like it's ruined my credit. It's hard. I don't know when I'm going to be able to buy a house. I want to fix it for myself, but I also don't want my kids to have to go through what I've gone through with that. And like when I was getting all these student loans, I didn't understand it. I don't want my kids to have to even get student loans, right? So I know that as a nurse, I'm not going to be able to pay my kids student loan or pay my kids college in full. I'm like, that's not going to happen. So Scentsy can be that vessel that helps me to avoid that, right? And also, I say that a lot, I'm sorry. If you think that you have a consistency problem, this is a main thing that Trent Shelton talks about, is a consistency problem is not a real issue, because you are doing things consistently. Like me, I'm feeding my kids every night. I'm not putting my kids to bed hungry. I'm going to the grocery store when I have to go to the grocery store. I'm going to my work. I might be late every once in a while, but I'm still showing up. Because if I don't feed my kids, they're going to be starving. They're not going to sleep. Or CPS is going to be called because my son's going to tell somebody he hasn't been eating. Like, you understand what's going to happen when you don't do certain things consistently, right? So you have to think of your business as something that needs to be done consistently, and you have to understand what the difference will be if you work it versus if you don't work it. And this is more for people that really want to make this into something more. So this isn't so much for the hobbyists, because for the hobbyists, like, they might not see this way. But for me, like, I don't want my kids to have to pay their student.
Ethan has a lot.
It's okay.
Can I have one?
He has what?
He has a lot.
Here, no, these. I don't want my kids to have to struggle with student loan debt and stuff like that. And I know, like I said, that nursing is not going to fix that for me. So the only way for me to fix that problem is to work my Scentsy business and make it into something more than just a hobby. And I think that's pretty much it for that. The last thing I have here is that, thank you. Ew, old milk cup, that's gross. So the last thing I've written down here, and this was something that I actually thought about as I was listening to the podcast. So if you're listening intently, you are going to have your own thoughts, not just writing what the person said, but actually thinking about how it applies to you. So when I'm listening to this and I'm talking about how I've kind of fell off and been inconsistent recently, I wrote down that I cannot change what I did yesterday, but I can decide what I'm going to do tomorrow. So I know what I've done wrong, and I have to fix that. So my commitment is to be more active, posting my stories every day about my family and Scentsy related things. And my commitment is to show up for my team, make sure I'm training y'all appropriately, be on the team page, go live on the team page like I was doing before, and that kind of thing. So Y'all have any questions? Oh, let me go back to the thing that really freaking opened my eyes, because you go through these things and you're like, I'm still kind of getting by because, like I said, I still had some orders coming in. They were random. It really wasn't like me messaging people and reaching out. It was just kind of like these random orders because I've been consulting for so many years and I have a good customer base. So those things can make you feel like you are doing something, but at the end of the day, you know that you're not. So the game changer for me was when, I'm sure y'all see that I earned the level 1 of the incentive trip. So Chastity, as she always does, posted that I had earned it. She posted it on my personal page, on our like leadership pages, on Shine Your Light, on all these pages. I opened up my Facebook, saw the notifications, and literally like avoided the whole situation because I knew that I was avoiding my business. And like it was a stressor for me. And that, like, just knowing that I was doing that, like, what? That doesn't make any sense. Because I still show up. So yeah, that was my thank you. Thank you, Alicia. And I appreciate everybody telling me thank you. And it's great. I mean, I worked hard for that. But at the same time, anything related to Scentsy, when you're avoiding, is going to stress you out. Even if it's a good thing, it's going to stress you out. So don't avoid. Don't be like me. When you notice these things, you have to find a way to fix them. You have to come up with a game plan. I'm really good, and I've always been good at this, is when I have a problem in my life at night, I can think of like a plan in my head of how I'm going to fix the problem to settle my mind and go to sleep. But it's my own issue if I wake up and don't do the things that I'm planning at night. So, yeah. I don't know if y'all have noticed any of this. If you haven't, that's a good thing, I guess. But it will happen in your business, and I hope that you'll remember some of this training when it does. Let me look at the comments. If anybody wants to unmute themselves and talk, Philippa, I feel like you have something to say.
I was taking all the notes.
Please.
Well, I was going to say that for you, it's like avoiding Scentsy, but for me, it's just been everything else. Like I had this dentist appointment. I said it like a month ago.
Oh, girl, I'm the same.
I knew that they were going to tell me this is wrong. Hey, look at what you owe us. Hey, look at all this. And like in the back of my head, all I've been thinking about is that stupid dentist appointment. And then I'm pushing myself and I'm like, well, it's going to be a big dentist bill. So I need a big Scentsy check.
Mm-hmm.
And then I overstress myself about it.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, this past month, it's been, I think Jessie Lee says it a lot in hers, is find your why,
Mm-hmm.
but then ask yourself why again. And then ask yourself, so on the surface for the month of September, I might have said, well, it's for this dentist bill. That's not my why. That's not going to keep me going forever.
Mm-hmm.
Because eventually I will pay the dentist. And then what? And that, so I think it's important to find your deep why. So for you, so Easton and Everly don't have to pay for their student debts. You know, for me, so we
Can I just say, I feel like I'm just now realizing that's a thing. Because my student loans, and a lot of people don't realize this because I don't talk about it a lot, but they have affected my life so much.
Yeah. So to be honest, my sister-in-law goes in-state to the same college I went to. And I was out of state. So she texted the other day with a screenshot of the difference versus in-state and out-of-state tuition and said, LOL, why would anybody pay out of state? And I sent ... And she goes, it's so much more expensive. That's just for one semester. And I said, you realize all of my student debt is because of that.
Mm-hmm.
And she complained about like $1,000 loan, which granted, if she doesn't want $1,000 loan, she doesn't want it. But then I'm sitting there thinking in the back of my head, like, I have 45 grand.
Right.
At least in student debt. And so for me, number one, I want to get that paid off. But I agree. I don't want my kids to have to do that. I don't want in 10 years when Piper turns 16, us to have to be like, crap, what's she going to drive?
Mm-hmm.
Oh my gosh, is it going to be reliable? I need my kid. You know what I mean? Like my
Yep.
first car was not reliable. So yeah, I think finding your why, but think deep on your why. Don't just make it a surface of this month my why is this month. What's your deep down? Are you a hobbyist? So it really is just to pay the unexpected, or is it I want to turn this into everything so we don't have to worry about my kids or worry about house payments and stuff like that. And I think identifying the problem, so when you're going through this, Scentsy stressing you out, but like for me it was I had the dentist, I had Scentsy, I ran out of stamps, and I really don't want to go to the post office. And then I have laundry that, like you said, it's moved places.
Yep.
And if I see myself getting stressed out, I need to figure out what the true problem is and then regroup. And if something I'm doing is not working, you need to stay consistent but flexible.
Yeah. So I think, and this is something I actually meant to talk about too, like for me, this mess in my house, this collection of Scentsy that I have has been building up for 2 years. So I cannot tell myself, oh, you can't work your Scentsy business until this is done. Because it's been building up for 2 years. I can't fix it in one day.
Yep.
So then it's just another way to avoid doing what I need to be doing because I'm telling myself I need to be cleaning this closet out. But it's not going to take me one day.
Yep.
Today, actually, before the Zoom, my desk area that I have right here was literally a pile of so many things. So I quickly went through it. I didn't clean it like I should. Some of the stuff I put into my Scentsy closet for another day, which is fine. It's okay.
Yes.
But this area needs to be clean for me to be able to do these things. So clean it the best way you can. But don't focus so hard on, oh my God, I can't do anything else until this is done, because that's just a way to avoid. That's what it is. You're avoiding.
Yes.
That's all you're doing.
Yes.
And I'm talking to myself with this a lot, so.
And then you were saying that you just have to be intentional. So set your intentions, but be realistic. So like the comparison thing, somebody gets 6,000 PRV. If I set myself of a goal of 6,000 PRV, and then I'm not intentional with how I could, if I can't write down a plan of I have all these parties booked, they have to hit this, then I'm not being realistic with myself. And then you're going to get more discouraged because you're comparing, and then you're not being realistic, and you don't have a way to get there. So yeah, setting the goals is important, but I think it's also important to be intentional about how you will get there.
Right.
Otherwise, you're going to get overwhelmed. And I mean, it's like when they released the Disney thing, they said if you don't write out a plan, you're going to get to the last month and look at it and be like, oh crap. Oops.
1,000%. Yeah. Yep. Absolutely. Anyone else? Or do you have anything else, Flippa? No?
Those are the big takeaways.
Alicia? Alicia, am I saying your name right? Okay. Julie, Kristen? No? All right, y'all. Well, I hope this was helpful. I'm going to download it. Oh, girl. Yeah, I know the feeling. Literally, let me tell y'all, today I took my, so I homeschooled my kid, Easton, this morning for 4 hours. Everly was in school, and then Easton has been begging me to go on a field trip because I told him we could go on field trips as a part of homeschool. So I was like, well, Easton, I don't think we're going to be able to go on our field trip today because we'll just carve pumpkins at home. And then he was so sad, and he was like, oh, that's all I've been looking forward to. So, of course, I had to go on the field trip. So I went on the field trip, and then I got home, and literally I just had a breakdown. I don't know why. I was just not okay. Sad crying breakdown. And there was no reason aside from just all the things piling together at one time and just stressing me out. And I already feel like 5,000 times better just talking through it with y'all. Because I almost felt like I was hiding something from my team. And it's not like you owe your all to your team, but at the same time, we are here to support you. And you have to understand that everybody goes through this and you're not alone. And it's okay to not be okay. But it's not okay to stay there, like Chastity says. Let me see what Alicia said. Yeah.
I think it was
Maybe
good
this
earlier.
full moon. Maybe
Like
that's
you
what it
said, Facebook isn't always what it seems.
is. Mm-hmm.
And I think that, like you were saying, it doesn't have to be perfect to send a mail out, or it doesn't have to be, so being genuine. So like this, like we know you're struggling, so I don't feel as bad that I've been like feeling the same way.
Right.
So, and like Alicia shared with me about Bo getting bullied and just stuff like that. It's nice for me to know as the leader too, hey, you're going through this. Let's work through it together, or this is how I overcame that, or, you know, stuff like that.
And I think it's normal, like when you go through a high, there's going to be a low. And that sucks. Like that really sucks because you feel like you should just be going through like high and keep going higher and higher and higher. But there has to be a balance. It can't be high forever, but it can't be low forever either. So just keep going, keep being consistent, and talk about things with people that understand what you're going through. And I think that's really important. All right, y'all. I'm going to do the drawing on the page on our Facebook on Born to Bloom, okay? I'm going to post it right after this. I'm going to put everybody in and do the little spinner thing. So y'all pay attention to that, okay? Thank you for coming on. Good night.
You. Bye.
Bye.